Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
Snowvid about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.
All right. We're live. What's up? Welcome to Please Remain Calm podcast. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I'm Daniel Gonzalez.
And we had a story that you wanted to get into on a previous episode.
Yeah.
And you kind of didn't make it to it.
Yeah.
But let's rein it in and just get to that right off the top. Huh?
Before we start, I just want to mention that the opinions that are stated here are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services.
Right on.
Point. This podcast sometimes I like to point out little things that irk me that happen at the fire station. I mean, it's Please Remain Calm. It's an emergency services podcast, whatnot. But we've talked about station life in the past, and the pros and the cons, the good things and the bad things about living in a house with 11 other guys or 10 other guys,
right?
That all come from different walks of life, that all look at the world differently. And this is something that it's a concept that I try to get people to understand before I even start having conversations, because within our department, okay, and some people might hear this and go, who the fuck is this guy? But within our department, I have a fairly active social media. Like people, when I go around and I'm people
know you.
Yeah, I work overtime at different places. They might not necessarily know me, but they'll know the 63's page, or they'll have heard of the podcast, or they'll have heard of the the dude that's on Bosch that works at 60 or shit like that, Yeah. And then my Instagram, I've had I have people from all across the country, firefighters follow me, young kids that are starting to get into it and stuff like that, follow me and stuff like that. So
and there's a Danny at every department for the most part. There's a guy that has a big social media page, or a bigger one who's kind of like an Instagram face of the department.
Exactly.
Bit,
And in general, I enjoy taking pictures. It's one of the things that I've always loved my whole life. You know what I mean? Photography in high school and stuff like that. And
right.
So I get people hitting me up, and then I have on top of that, I'm obviously a much more liberal minded person in a very conservative profession, right? And I'm pretty vocal about it on my social media. I don't hide the way I think about things, the way I look at the world and stuff like that. Okay.
Right.
All that being said, I get a lot of feedback, let's say, from people that follow me. Okay. Good and bad. All right. Argumentative and agreeable. You know what I mean? I get it all, dude. And I enjoy having those back and forths with people. I enjoy having those conversations with people. All that being said, I also understand the mentality of I understand a conservative mindset and a conservative mentality.
Totally.
Or a right-wing mentality, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I watch Fox and OAN just by sheer fact of I happen to be in the room and it's on all the time. You know what I mean? I hear these conversations that are going on at the kitchen table between two guys that are like-minded and the things that they're saying, okay?
Right.
On top of all that, I read a lot, man. When I exercise, people normally listen to Pandora or music and stuff. I listen to books, or I listen to podcasts on subjects I enjoy. I used to listen to Korn and hard rock and stuff while I worked out and stuff like that. That was at a point in my life when I was...
You're opinionated now.
Yeah. I'm educated. I know what I'm talking about. My opinions aren't formed just off of my heart. You know what I mean? I'm smart. And I have a family. You know what I mean? These aren't just whimsical far left wing ideas that I come up with and come out with. So when people come and try to argue with me about stuff like political views, first of all, to me, it's silly to argue about those things. It's silly for me to try to convince you to see the world like I see it. And here's what I mean by that. And I try to explain this to people before we even get into it, right? Even me and you, man, grew up in the same household with the same parents, even experienced the same experiences growing up, right? There is no way for me to know how you took that experience, how you soaked it in, how your brain processed it, and what you got out of it. We might have gotten two completely different things out of that same scenario, So when I argue or talk to or discuss anything with anybody, and we are of differing opinions, I always try to keep that in mind. this person I'm speaking to does not and will not ever see the world exactly the way I see it. Okay. Right. I'm looking through my lens. He's looking through his. So that's how I approach all these discussions. Okay. With an open mind and with that point of view that they're probably going to get angry because they don't even see that the same way. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know that people are locked into their tunnel vision.
Right. Yeah. So we have your starting point. So what happened?
Cut to the other day, and I mentioned this on my social media, but I was going to mention it here the other day, and I'll do it now. I get a firefighter spot at 63s. Okay. When that happens and I'm not on the paramedic rescue, if there's a paramedic spot anywhere in the city and I'm working as a firefighter because I'm getting paid extra, they'll detail me over to that paramedic spot. So there is an acquaintance of mine on the fire department, guy that I have no real problems with. He's a fine guy. I mean, we say what's up to each other, you know, but daps, hugs when we see each other, how's the family, all that stuff. Very right wing, has hit me up a few times on social media. We've gone back and forth, right? Little zingers to each other here, but nothing malicious or anything like that. And it's always left like, hey, no big deal, man. Take care. Yeah. I get detailed to this fire station. I show up and I'm relieving him. Okay. The last interaction we had a tiny bit tense. He had sent me something, and then I just sent him like a fact check on it. It was like, get your facts straight. You know, you need better sources. And bada bada bada. And it was like, all right, dude, I'm not trying to argue with you. Let's leave it alone. That's kind of how it was left.
Right.
So I see him. No big deal to me, dude. You know what I mean? Like I have those discussions all the time. So when I see him, it's like, hey, what's up, man? Anything to discuss? You know, we do our little relief at the rig, and he goes, hey man, I hope you didn't take that political stuff personally. And I go, no, I don't take anything personally, man. Like I said, we all have our opinions, and I kind of explain what I just explained to you to him, how I view that stuff. So I go, no worries. But then he gets into it, right? Starts, well, what about this? You know, well, what about Biden, canceling Keystone XL, and what about all those jobs?
Rehash it in person.
He starts doing all the same stuff. Mm-hmm. So I humor him. I go through and if he said something, I was like, well, explain that to me, man. Like, what do you mean by that? And he would get kind of twisted up in his words. And it was like, all right, hey, look, well, now there's something you have to learn about that before you have like an in-depth discussion about it. But this is what I think about it. Mm-hmm. And then finish it off with, but hey, dude, it's, we're all entitled to our own opinions. Yeah. It's fine.
So how do you take that?
So that's how this turns into like a 45-minute conversation, okay?
During the relief bump?
Yeah, I'm sitting on the tailboard of the rescue, and he's standing there with his foot up on the hose. Yeah. And this is going back and forth.
So for context, this is like 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
He's off work. He can leave.
He's off. Yeah. He's been off, okay? And we're going back and forth, okay? Look, I don't win them all, dude. There are definitely times that people make points that I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think of that. You know what I mean? Which is why I invite that stuff. If you're level-headed and you can have a level-headed conversation without getting upset and getting emotional about stuff when you realize that there's something you don't know, or I teach you something or whatever. Yeah.
It's one of the good things about being a grown-up.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. I love that. I'm happy to have conversations like that. It's when people get emotional about stuff and get worked up and get angry that's like, well, this isn't even, there's no point in doing this. Yeah. You're not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. You're just getting upset for no reason. And it's not affecting me at all. It's affecting you. I'm worried about you, right? So we go through this whole discussion. Mm-hmm. He makes a point. My counterpoints. He feels silly. We move on. He makes a point. Counterpoints. He feels silly. We move on. Okay. Finally, I go, look, dude. It's all good though. We all have our own opinions. You have yours. And I go, I'm going to go work out. I get up. I go to walk away. And as I'm walking away, he goes, yeah, well, I just think when you grow up a little, you'll see the world differently. And I stop. I come back and I go, well, why'd you have to do that, dude?
Hey, what? Can I interject for a second? How old's that guy?
My age.
Okay. Number one. And that's always like a move for those dudes. Oh, exactly. You're just in college. You don't understand.
Exactly.
When you get a job, when you get a house, then you'll know, like, no, I got all this shit now, and I still think you're fucked up.
Exactly, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I don't take kindly to being insulted, directly insulted, right?
Right.
That's not the type of thing that I just let go, all right? Uh-huh. I also don't get mad, though, like angry. Like, I'll come up and explain. Like when my boys are here in the studio with us, right? used to be when they pissed me off, I got mad, I got red, right? They might get a little spanking on the butt, got screamed at. Now, when they make me mad, I take a moment, take a breath, right? And we talk about what the hell pissed me off, why I'm pissed, why they did what they did, right? And that seems to be working well with them. It's the same thing with arguing with adults. Getting angry and mad does not do anything, especially with a full-grown man, right. You know what I mean, that you're right in front of. So I come back, I go, why'd you have to do that, dude? You know, we just had this great discussion. Nobody was insulting anybody. It was a thoughtful discussion, and you have to insult me on the way out like that. I go, so I'll tell you what, I'm done talking to you about any of this ever. And when your balls drop, when you grow up, you can come talk to me like an adult, all right? I turn around and I walked away. Yeah. I go get changed. I go get on the Stairmaster. And now I'm in the gym. You know, everybody's in the gym working out. This guy's off duty. Yeah. Right? The
so
captain's
how
right
much
there.
time has passed now?
15 minutes.
Oh, my God.
All right?
Yeah.
I'm 10 minutes in on the Stairmaster, sweating. Yeah. All right? Listening to Sapiens, a new book I'm listening to, right? So he comes up to me on the side of the Stairmaster. Hey, do you need me to come in early tomorrow? I go, nah. And then he goes, hey, well, you know, we could talk about this later. I go, we could talk about this right now, dude, if you want to. You walked all the way over here again. I go.
So that fool sat in his car. He got in his car.
I don't know if he got in his car.
Boom, 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 boom. Take the seatbelt off. You know what?
Might have, dude. No. Might have.
Oh,
okay?
My God.
So I go, we can talk about this now, man. You know? And he goes, well, you know, I just think that you know, I didn't realize that you were sensitive. And I go, I hit the stop. I get off. I go, listen to me, dude. I'm not sensitive at all. Okay? That's an insult. You're insulting me. All right? I don't appreciate that. You're telling me when I grow up, that's insinuating that I'm a child. Okay? I'm 42 years old. I have 2 kids, a mortgage. All right? I do shit you wish you could do. So that's an insult. I don't appreciate it. Okay? It's unnecessary. And he goes, okay, well, okay, man, I'm sorry. All right. Maybe I should have changed my words a little bit. Maybe when you mature a little more. And I go, see? I go, are you kidding me, dude? So now the captain's right there, right? Yeah. He goes, hey, look, man, why don't you just get out of here? And I go, and he goes, well, how about if you evolve, as he's backing up, right? And I go, listen, man, worry about you. You evolve, you grow, you change, and then you'll realize that you don't have to insult me, right? Yeah. You don't have to insult me. You just have to be better and more well-informed and have better arguments. Yeah. If that's the case and you have better ideas.
Or just shut up.
Or just shut the fuck up. Right?
That's always an option for everyone.
And that's kind of as he's going off and the captain's pushing him away. And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? I'm thinking to myself, like, I didn't hit you up to argue about anything. I didn't walk up to you or bring up our online arguments when I saw you here. I didn't walk up to you 15 minutes later after the fact, right? I don't even fucking follow you on social media. Yeah. I appreciate you. You're a cool dude, and I could say what's up to you and how your kid's doing and stuff.
But I'm here at work.
I don't think about you, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my point is, you can have discussions like that with people, okay? If you feel like you have a strong opinion and you're smart and you're well-informed, because I got another buddy that when I posted this on social media, another buddy that is a far-right Trump supporter as well, but who I have a lot of respect for, when I was having problems, was very helpful to me, was kind to me, dude. You know, really took me by the hand and helped me out in a situation where I was in a bad spot. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for. Hit me up. Hey, man, you know, I disagree with this. I can have a level-headed discussion, you know, if you want to have geopolitical blah, blah, and he starts going into, and then, so to me, all right, cool, man. That sounds like you know what you're talking about. If we're ever in the situation where it comes up and we can do it, I don't want to go and meet you for coffee at Starbucks to have that argument. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if I'm at the fire station, you want to talk about this stuff, I'm happy to do it. Yeah. If you're able to have a conversation, a level-headed conversation.
That's why I don't do it as much as you, like on social media and shit, because I don't feel like talking to everybody about it. I don't want people messaging me, like telling me what they think about it, because I don't fucking care.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
And so I used to be a lot more like that.
Yeah.
But coming to the realization that people live in their little bubbles and might not even have ever heard of some of the information that I have that I'm giving to them. You know what I mean? Like, even when I argue and they're like argumentative and I have to cut the conversation off, at least I've planted, I'm like the little birdie dropping by taking a shit and there's a seed in that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm shitting on you, but I'm planting a little tiny seed and who knows what that might grow into. You know what I mean? At least it's broken through that little right-wing bubble that you have, you know?
I just leave them to whatever thing they're tripping on at the moment. Like, it was Dr. Seuss, now it's the red meat. That's like total horseshit. No one's cutting out any meat from anybody's store or anything.
Yeah.
And now like meat sales are all cranked up because, I'm going to buy all the meat and shit. All right, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're supporting American farms.
Yeah.
You know, that's great.
Yeah, man. It's that shit happens all the time, dude. You know what I mean? Like arguments like that within the fire station. You got to, and you got to keep in mind that it is an enclosed, it's kind of like the real world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 12 people forced to live in the house. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And everyone's different. You pick out the little pieces of everybody's humanity that you can see that you can hold on to and like be like, all right, this is my brother. And you kind of like brush their right wing or whatever shit that you completely disagree with to the other side, and you find this like middle ground. And every once in a while you have these little battles of ideas. And it's crazy, man. I can't think of any of like, I don't know what other profession would be like that, where you have that, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because my workplace, the Mac, is like split down the middle pretty much of conservative and not conservative.
Yeah,
and everybody just gets along though, and it's never like a beef or anything.
Yeah,
we actually have a guest calling in right now to the show.
Yeah,
it's the guy from 61s.
Oh my God!
Right? The beef continues. He's not going to leave you alone.
I can't
Daddy.
believe it.
He's not going to leave you alone. Nah,
that is a joke, folks.
We have a special guest. Yet another. Well, I should say yet another family member. How many family members have we actually had on our show? Oh, that's right. You didn't.
Ben Hameen.
Yeah, man. Nick, what's up, dude? Can you hear us?
What's going on?
Hey,
can you guys hear me well?
We can hear you. Our guest today is our cousin. I was going to say yet another family member, but what family member have we actually had on? Like we planned.
We haven't.
We planned to have people on.
No,
but no one's actually.
Petey and Adrian, you know.
Yeah, they're
family adjacent.
They're not blood.
Yeah, but never blood. This guy is our blood right here.
All right, our cousin, Nick Chavez. All right, Nick, the first actual.
You guys, what, 36 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a long time,
right? Crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. Nick, the first actual blood relative to be a guest on the show.
Yeah, we'll send you a plaque, dude.
Yeah.
Cutting the line.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? Way to go. We didn't see this one coming. Nick, the dark horse. For first family member guest, dude.
So Nick, you're in Texas right now, right?
I am.
What town in Texas you in?
Yeah, we're in San Antonio.
Okay, and tell us what you do for a living out there in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, so I am a supply chain director for the big hospital out here. So my role is making sure nursing departments, procedural areas, ancillary units, everybody has the supplies that they need. Work with contracts and vendors for all those. We work to make sure they have the equipment, resources, really everything that they need for that.
So when you say supplies, are you talking about the whole spectrum from like oxygen and medications all the way to like gauze and needles and shit like that, or?
More specific to med-surg supply. So our pharmacy team would handle more of those, but we can help with the sourcing and contracting for them too. But like food nutrition, EVS, down to the contracts or the contracted items, specialty items for, linen or disposable curtains, or we work with infection prevention when they say, hey, we got to get rid of, launderable curtains because they can pose an infection risk.
Right.
Okay, what does it cost to bring in, a disposable? What's the process? How much does that increase, our bottom line, things like that.
Man. So that stuff can change all the time because you can have, supplies in stock and then realize like, oh shit, these are getting recalled now.
Man.
Recalls, back orders, substitutions, and when they sub something, it might not be, a direct cross, or you have to get something else to make it work.
Make it compatible.
It's like everything we do, I think of two things that describe it best. One, in Hotel Rwanda, Paul Rusesabagina is utilizing every relationship and every item he has to make things work for everyone.
Right.
That's what we do a lot. But then the other piece is like in Apollo 13, when their oxygen's going to run out.
Right.
a bunch of guys are in the room. They throw down every supply that they have on the
table,
space plane. Yeah, and they say we got to make this round tube fit into this rectangular hole using just what's on the table. Let's get to work.
Right.
So in a week like when we had the snow hit a couple months ago, it was definitely that, where we're pulling from every area where an item's available because nobody could get in or out of the city. You know, just every day it brings something new.
So we're going to get into that. Okay, we're going to get into the blackout. There's two main things I think that we want to talk about with you today.
That hit Nick in the past year.
With your expertise. Now, the hospital that you work for, is it a hospital system? Are there multiple hospitals that you're ordering for, or is it just one massive complex?
So we are, the hospital I work for is the biggest in the city, and like top 20 in size. It's probably about the size of Cedars-Sinai.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
For context of it. And that's the hospital I work at and oversee. We have probably about 6 or 7 hospitals in the city, and then just part of a larger organization too.
Bunch of urgent cares, clinics.
Just here, which in itself can be a beast to handle.
So now, obviously, when the pandemic started, right? The pandemic hit. You had a workload already that was your normal workload before the pandemic hit, right?
Yeah.
What kind of spike, what kind of increase in your workload as far as ordering for your hospital did you see in those early days of the pandemic?
So a lot of people think about March really as the start of the pandemic for the U.S., but really it goes back, further behind that. I think historically, the world has always really been on the brink of potential issues when you think of like global logistics and supply chain.
Yeah, I was going to say,
a lot of stuff comes from that side of the world.
Yeah, you guys already have like a disaster system set up there in San Antonio, right? Like with your hospital.
We do.
Just in case.
Yeah, every hospital.
Right.
Yep. So like our system has to maintain a certain amount of disaster supplies. Every month I'm part of committees and teams where we have to check our operations. We do tabletop exercises to prepare for things like this.
Right.
But for us, the pandemic really started in January of 2020. That's when we first started hearing of issues in Wuhan, China, which is where we now know it started from.
Right.
But my company is a big national company, and they watch everything. And so their boots on the ground were starting to hear of issues coming from Wuhan. What a lot of people don't realize is Wuhan is a major raw plastic material manufacturer for the whole world. So not necessarily just all the actual products, but like the actual plastic pellets and everything that gets manipulated and manufactured. That's where a lot of it comes from. So we started hearing there were issues of there. And then in February, when it started hitting there, a lot of things got shut down. And they ended up being shut down for multiple months. Like we're talking the whole city. So every company, everything was shut down.
So no one could source materials for supplies then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really where it started from my side, because
wasn't really a virus issue. It was more of a plastic issue initially.
Yeah. At that point, obviously the COVID is a huge thing, and we've seen the effects that has and the surges in different cities and how it can kind of overrun the resources. But for us, and from that perspective, I was thinking of a couple things. Is number one, what does this impact? What are the normal day-to-day things that we impact? And then when you see the virus and the increased demand for it, literally everything I've ever seen in a textbook has come to life this past year. Short supply, high demand, higher than what it used to be. And then when something is shut down for multiple months, you don't have anything getting manufactured. So now all of a sudden people aren't even needing just ISO gowns and N95s and things in general. Now you need 10, 20, 30 times as much to support the whole globe. So that's where you started to see a lot of issues with PPE running out. As a firefighter, you saw that, having to wear one for multiple days. Same things were happening in the hospitals. We had to pull everything from the nursing floors sequester it, centralize it. And for the past year, we've been managing that supply through there in a place to separate out, understanding who uses what, making sure that, you know, a department that doesn't need any isn't getting the same amount as one of our COVID units or something.
Wait, so you guys wound up pooling everything from every department, getting it in one place, and then just kind of like redistributing based on need?
So we did more masks, isolation gowns, and wipes. Like those were the basic things that all of a sudden we're going.
And were they getting like lifted as well? Like were people like stealing gloves, stealing masks?
So reading through like a lot of articles and stuff at the time, yeah, you could see a lot of different regions having issues with people pulling it. And that was our concern. We never found anything here, but just the fact that one day you've got a unit completely stocked or stocked with all their masks, and then the next day they're all gone.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have 900 cases overnight.
Right.
That stuff was just going. So we pulled that. Just to make sure we had the resources we needed, and then distribute so that we could control the flow of it, making sure that we weren't overusing or letting those get through to places that didn't need them.
Yeah, that's smart. There was an issue here at a hospital here at Hollywood Press where they were keeping the N95s locked in the crash cart, and a nurse had to go into a COVID room, a heavy COVID room, without an N95 because she just didn't have time to unlock the cart and grab it. And then she wound up getting COVID and dying.
Yeah.
Did you guys have situations like that where you guys had to like lock supplies up on the floor, or?
Yeah, I mean, we kept it in a locked area, and the only people that had access to it was the nursing administrators, our supply chain staff, because it's our area. So really limited in scope to that. But, you know, I was on the COVID units, helping get supplies set up, making sure that they had what they needed, equipment. I never had to go in rooms. I haven't had to do that since I was a patient transporter 10 years ago. And my whole focus as a hospital leader and supply chain is, what do I do to make sure that they have what they need to do their job?
Right.
So that was my worst fear out of all of it too, is what if somebody has to save somebody, go in an emergent situation and not have an isolation gown, and then take those scrubs home to their family or have to wash it in their own machine? Or what if they don't have the right mask? What if it breaks on them, you know, in the middle of taking care of a patient? So we had to balance the need to conserve with practical ways to do that. And sometimes it meant giving the hospital administrator, you know, a handful of N95s to keep on them, or if they're having to respond to something, they can immediately go through. We had to build like emergent packs for people to have,
like little go packs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is it can affect the morale of all the staff if they feel like, man, they don't care about us, they're not giving us enough supplies, and that all falls on Nick, because that's the whole thing, is like, you won't consider the importance of the supply chain manager, but if we're out of gloves, like, I'm not working, bro. You know what I'm saying? If there's no mask, like, I'm not working. Like I'm gonna go home, you know?
Exactly.
And that would be the case. So basically, like, the system kind of breaks down if there's, you know, cogs in Nick's machine, or it can, and he's got to account for it all the time.
We tend to work in the shadows.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of the work, an EVS worker, food nutrition worker, delivering lunches to people. All of those things really happen, and people expect those to happen. We never really hear about the good things that occur. It's normally when something goes wrong,
right? So
that we're trying to address it and see. And so this year, I don't think anybody has paid more attention to supply chain in a hospital than this past year. Because then what you also see is as like gowns and shoe covers and things start going on back order, companies are then redistributing their materials to help cover that, which then creates a back order on those other items.
Right.
So you're just seeing things pivot, and that's where we've been this past year is seeing back orders on different things at different times, all sourcing back to a couple months of not having raw materials and people just having to figure out what their priorities were to make.
It's so interesting to me just how fragile this entire system is. You know what I mean? How if one cog is in the wrong place or is missing for just a short amount of time, how it screws the entire system up. But you're right, man. It's that's why we thought it was important to have you on, because it's not just supply chain managers, but the ladies that go in and have to terminal clean each room after a COVID patient's been in it.
Yep.
And when you say terminal clean, we don't mean just like go in and wipe stuff down. I mean they go in and wipe and disinfect every nook and cranny of everything in there, and that
keeping the wet times for wipes and chemicals too.
Exactly.
You can't just wipe it and it's clean. It's got to stay wet for a certain amount of time, depending on what chemical you're using too. So
exactly,
these people are in the same room being exposed to the same thing. So even with like N95s, where we have medical versions versus like the KN95 started coming out, the non-fit tested one, we were very specific to say everybody needs this medical one.
Right.
We don't want anyone to feel like they're getting an inferior product just because they're a different department or they're not the nurse handling it. They're still in the same room with the same air.
Exactly, same risk. And the other thing to keep in mind too is that hospitals before all this happened, folks, were already overrun with patients. And I talk about it a lot on here, how you can't fix one problem, a societal problem, without looking at 3 other problems that need to be adjusted and fixed for everything to work properly. And seeing as how so many people in this country don't have health insurance, or a doctor that they see regularly because they can't afford it. Hospitals, a lot of times, especially in underserved communities, we as a paramedics are their healthcare.
Yeah.
And if
you're the ER.
Exactly. And if they're sick, and because it's generational, because they grew up with this type of thinking, when you get sick, it's like, oh, we'll just call 911. They'll take you to the hospital. Right. On stuff that really should be taken care of by a family doctor, or by going to see your personal care physician or primary care physician. But so hospitals were already busy. Now keep in mind that you introduce COVID. Not only do you have to protect the people that work there, right? You have to protect them properly. You also have to put a mask on this patient that's coming in with potential COVID to lessen the likelihood that he's going to spread it, right? He or she is going to spread it. You also have to protect the other patients that aren't COVID patients. You know what I mean? That are just in the hallway of the ER. Like taking a COVID patient in wound up being, you got the exhaust on in the back of the rescue. You've got a mask on the patient. You've got your N95 on. You've got goggles on. You've got a bouffant on. You've got a gown on, gloves. You were the only one that made contact with that patient throughout the entire call. Okay, your partner just stayed in the front. You did everything. You're doing the EPCR. As you're going to the hospital, you're calling in. You're saying we have a potential COVID patient. Okay,
right.
Before they had their own like COVID tents and COVID areas that had their own openings and stuff like that, you had to take this patient to an ISO room in the ER. So it wound up being like, okay, you'd get there with this patient, they'd come out, check him, okay, it's possible COVID, we got to get him to the ISO room. Clear the hallways. And everybody in the hallways would duck into a room, shut the doors, and you would go as fast as you could with this patient down, take his O2 off, so he's not exhausting O2 or exhaled air, and you're rushing him to this ISO room. So during that, while all that's happening, everybody who's in the path of travel for that patient is potentially exposed to COVID. You have to protect those patients too. So when we talk about supply, need for supply being increased, we're not just talking about these patients that are showing up with COVID. You're talking about everybody that's going to care for them, everybody that's going to clean the room, everybody they pass by in the hallway, everybody in the next room. You know what I'm saying? So, it was a huge increase, right? In your workload, essentially.
Yeah, we actually implemented a universal masking policy. We were the first in our company. They had asked us to pilot it. A lot of times that happens for us. As big of a place we are, if we can make something work, then everyone else tends to be able to tailor to their needs too. So exactly that point, you got to make sure that every patient and visitor, staff member is masked. So we started having a calculator to make sure that we have a supply to be able to do that. And maybe it was done through a procedure of mask. Maybe we start stocking up on alternate versions. Maybe we need to start using our surgical masks, the tie ones for people too. So just making sure that we mitigate that.
And just hearing all this, from somebody that's in there actually doing the order. I mean, you can imagine having this scaled up, You know what I mean? Thousands of times for the federal government. Like how important it is to be prepared for things like this, for situations like this, you know?
And all the other hospitals need it as well. Plus, smaller hospitals are probably asking Nick, do you guys have extras? Do you have things that you can spare, right?
Right.
Yeah, even within our division, you know, we're a bigger hospital, so we tend to carry some more product. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have more to give away. It means that we have more that we have to use.
Yeah.
So trying to be good stewards of the products that we have, act as though we're not going to get more, and then plan according to that.
Yeah. Yeah. In LA, what we had the disaster coordinators for the county, and we used we have a ReadyNet system where all the hospitals are connected like a data network, right? Where we can interact. So when hospitals needed supplies, they would put in resource requests on the ReadyNet, and then our disaster guys would source them, figure out how to get them to them, and they'd either come to the disaster warehouse and pick it up, or get delivered to them in some cases. Yeah. So were you guys doing that as well? Like, was there
our city has a regional kind of disaster setup for that, where if people are in need of different things, they can put in to distract, whether it's staffing issues, if you're running out of nurses to be able to,
we had
bring
those
over,
too.
you know, if it's basic PPE stuff, they can help facilitate, and they have their own nurses that they can deploy and send out too. But I think the biggest thing was really nursing.
Yeah, after a while, that was like the only request.
I mean, it's a profession that is sorely understaffed
across the nation.
All of a sudden,
worldwide, really,
you need so many more people. And that's why a lot of hospitals had to shut down a lot of procedural operations, what you call quote unquote elective procedures. You know, getting a tumor isn't really elective, but you then have to triage everything that you're doing, just like in the field. It's okay. Here's these 3 people that need a surgery. We only have space for 1 today. Yeah. So who's going to take that?
Sure.
And when that happened, every hospital, I think, dealt with this, where you shut down those types of operations and you see where your resources are. You can't just take a PD med surg nurse and put them into a COVID ICU and say, we need you over here. You have to put them into an adult med surg unit. You take those adult med surg nurses and put them into a telemetry unit. Take the telemetry unit nurses, put them in the ICU, and then those ICU people are going straight into the COVID because they already know that workflow and just have the more precautions at it. So that was a huge thing that every nurse really had to go through in terms of resources and handling those big surges.
And in talking about that too, it's important to understand too that there are rules in place for nurses as well. A nurse is only allowed to have so many patients. And really, depending on the level of care that you're giving as a nurse, really dictates how many patients that you're legally allowed to be caring for.
More intense the patients are.
The more patients you have, the more chance that there is that you could miss something, that you could, give somebody the wrong dose of a medication. Human error is something that happens all the time, man. And it's why we, even as paramedics, if we're given a medication, let's say, I'll look at it, right? We'll look at the dose, make sure it's the right dosage, make sure it's not expired. We'll look at the medication, make sure it's clear, right? And then I'll show it to my partner. Hey, bro, dice this out for me. And he'll look at it, make sure, check all those same things, and hand it back to me. That's how we know we're giving the right medication.
Tell him what dice is.
Now you tell him what dice is. I just broke it down.
I'm an old paramedic.
When you're looking at it, it's just like I said, you're breaking it down. You're looking at it for clarity. You're looking at the expiration date. You're making sure it's not damaged at all.
What was it? Dosage, integrity, clarity, expiration. Okay,
but then you have your partner double check it as well, right? A nurse is caring for this patient by themselves. Not only, listen, doctors obviously are the big brains of the emergency room, okay?
Right.
But a nurse has as much, if not more, information in their brain as far as dosages. And a lot of times you'll hear a doctor like,
they're the hands.
You'll hear a doctor order something. The nurse will go, well, are you sure you want this? Or do you want to give this because of this? And they'll go, oh shit, you're right.
Totally.
So a nurse has a lot to deal with, especially with a serious patient. So the more patients you have, the more chance you can miss something. So, just because you walk into an emergency room and you might see 3 beds there with no patients in it, it might be a situation where they don't have the staffing to be able to put a patient in that bed. right, legally. So that's just another thing, another thing on top of all the supply chain issues and stuff like that you have. There's a nursing shortage. Not only that, half the damn nurses and half the damn firefighters and paramedics aren't getting COVID. I mean, aren't getting the vaccine.
Yeah.
Aren't getting the vaccine.
Yeah, to make it worse.
Bitched about wearing masks, you know what I mean, to make it worse.
Yeah.
So then it starts spreading through that group of people.
But here's the other thing, too. Think about this. Everybody already has their staffing challenges and issues. Now you have really hard-hit areas that are desperate for people to come in, and they start offering 5-10 times worth what a normal pay rate is to come in for 8 weeks, even 4 weeks, 6 weeks, normally 13 weeks for contracts. So
your staff
now in areas that are already struggling, you're going to start losing more and more nurses
to the money
because they're going to those areas. They have the ability to transfer. They're going to make a year's salary in 2 months.
Yep.
Travel.
Nice.
That's a great opportunity from a pay perspective, but then you're putting yourself at bigger risk. And then it's creating issues wherever they were coming from too.
Right. Right.
So Nick survives through the pandemic, gets his hospital staff through it. Everybody makes it.
We made it.
All right. Nothing else could possibly go on. 2020 is over, right? Yeah. And then a fucking snowstorm in Texas.
Snowvid, as we call it too. So
let's talk about that, dude.
We're still dealing with 2020. Everyone just thinks that it's the end of a movie. Like it's Avengers Endgame. Let's move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
But that's not true. We're still dealing with the effects. It's going to be really through the end of this year before we catch up supply wise, and then you start to see all of these other things happening. And then the snow hits, comes out of nowhere. About a week before, mind you, this happened like mid-February. So like first week or so of February, we started getting reports of potential cold weather, possibility. I think 6 days out, it was like a 20% chance that it was going to snow here.
Do you guys get snow in San Antonio? Do you ever get snow there? Have you ever, since you've been out there?
I've been out here for 5.5 years, and it happened once overnight, like maybe an inch, and it was cool, but like that was it. It went away the next day because it was 70 degrees.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't stay, and nothing's built for that here too. San Antonio is just nothing but hills, going up and down. So even when the Hurricane Harvey was hitting Houston, we had to prep in case it hit us. And our first concern was flooding because the streets would get flooded, the different ways that would clear out would cause issues. So when we started getting word about all the snow stuff, the first thing was, making sure that we were prepping for it. Let's get things loaded. The weekend before, we started thinking about what happens if we can't get in to the hospital on Monday when it's supposed to snow. So we actually had people in, getting prepped, extra supplies, getting everything loaded up wherever it could go.
Did you have Did you have any indication at that point as you were prepping, or was there any word, back channel or anything that there was going to be or potentially going to be any problems with the power grid out there?
Nothing about the power. No, that was a completely separate thing from it.
Because
that's
really
something going on.
That's something that the hospitals, typically would be really concerned about, right? I know there's generators and the hospital have emergency power and stuff like that, but that's not something that is that not something that the hospital generally just keeps tabs with the city about electricity? And
so it's the same point, the STRAC team and every region having different incident command systems that are set up. Our facilities team works closely with them to make sure that systems are in place so that we're in communication. We have generators that we have here at the hospital. They get tested every month. We have water wells. We've got backup supply, emergent things that are needed for the division. But the cold, when it was coming through, nobody anticipated anything bad to happen in terms of that. Obviously, you have power outages that can occur, but for 2-3 days, like that wasn't something that anybody was expecting.
At what point did At what point after the snow started did the power actually go out for you guys?
So at the hospitals, they're on grids that
I'm talking about you personally.
For us, it was, let's see, the snow hit Sunday night. And then Monday, like early in the morning after it hit, the power was going in and out. It would go out for like an hour, be on for 30 minutes, and then it would go out. And throughout the day, that just kept shortening to the point where then it was out for 4 hours, be on for 5 minutes, and then go out. And then by Monday night, there was nothing.
Wow.
Like not a single thing. And mind you, you can't even get to stores really to get supplies. Only people with like 4-wheel drive or that live across the street from a store. And if they happen to be open because they had people that could get to work, then you're stuck with whatever was left.
Sure.
After people had raided the stores, that weekend before and bought everything up.
Crazy. How long did it wind up lasting?
On our bed. We brought the kids in with us on our king bed, put on like the 4 sleeping bags that we had, layered them all down. I'm a supply guy, so we were set up with our basics: water, batteries, food, lots of top ramen.
How cold was it during that time?
When it was snowing, it had gotten down to about 18 degrees.
Oh my God!
Come
back to LA, my cousin. Dude, come back to Los Angeles.
It got down to like, I think 11 degrees, Jesus. 10 or 11 degrees at its coldest. And then even during the day, that Monday, we're playing in the snow, but it's like literally 22 degrees outside.
Oh my God.
It's like so cold, I couldn't realize that it was that cold.
And obviously your house is getting that cold because you have no heat, right? Because there's no power.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a fireplace in there? Were you able to build any fires or anything?
No fireplace. We have a gas range, so we could at least, boil water.
Sure.
We could cook on there, so there wasn't a big issue with that. It was reading every survivor skill tactic, guide where it was open up all of your blinds during the day.
Yeah.
Allow the sun to come in, heat things up, and when it got colder or darker, close all the blinds, put sheets over them, try and keep all the heat in.
Crazy.
Stay in one room, if you could.
Freaking frontier times, Nick.
Yeah, man. I think that just goes to the heart, though, of how important proper planning is in all things in life, man.
Yeah. Which is like a credo for Nick as a supply guy, and
really
always
is.
Prepared.
Yeah. Exactly, man. Exactly. Every little skill that you pick up in life, you can find some sort of profession that if you enjoy doing that, whatever that skill is, you can find something and get paid to do it, just like Nick does here. Because essentially, man, if you just prepare yourself in life, you got kids, you start putting money away, whatever it is. If you prepare properly, shit is just life is a lot more easier when it throws a curveball at you, and that's what life loves to do, man.
Exactly.
It loves to throw curveballs at you.
It should be noted too that Nick moved to Texas from Arizona. Yes. So he is not prepared for the cold in any way. Any way whatsoever.
That is very true.
It's not like I moved from Minnesota and had experience in it, like born in LA, raised in Arizona, and now in Texas. But in the 5 years I've been here, we've been through 2 times of snow, tornado, hurricanes, like you name it, we've seen it here. It's crazy.
Ted Cruz. Yeah.
Ted Cruz. We've weathered that storm as well.
Man. It should be noted, Nick is, on top of being the first relative on the show, he's our most accomplished relative.
Yes.
All right. Our grandfather was a diplomat. Our other cousin just became a PhD. Nick contributed maybe the best television moment in 80s LA. You know what I mean?
This will be extra.
Start with that.
This is a very.
This will be bonus content on the DVD.
This is a very LA specific piece we're gonna do here. But Nick, this guy, how old were you? Like 6, 5?
I was 5.
5 years old. There was a show
in LA.
Before Good Day LA or any of that shit. There was AM LA on Channel 7. The same day, the same guy from Good Day LA, Steve Edwards. Steve Edwards. OG Steve Edwards and Tawny Little.
Steve Edwards and Tawny Little.
Tawny Little. Yeah, she was like an anchor woman on Channel 9 News after that for a while. She was pretty. So they were like the morning show host, and they had this contest where it was like a lip singing contest.
Kitty Rocker contest.
Yeah, that's right. Kitty Rocker. Because in the 80s, lip singing was big. There was a show called Putting on the Hits. That was like our favorite freaking show. where it was just a lip syncing competition, right?
Hell yeah.
So
putting on the hits.
Nick, 5-year-old Nick puts on like a freaking turtleneck with a sweater vest, bro, looking like New Edition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Straight up and does.
A flat top.
Yeah, and he had a flat top, and he has curly hair too. So it was like a curly flat top. It was like it was fire. It was like a little DeBarge, little chubby DeBarge out there.
A fine little panza too, man. Right? A nice little panza with the turtleneck.
Yeah. And what song does he do in this outfit? Motherfucking Hanging Tough.
Hanging Tough.
And let me just say too, that was a bold choice at the time because while New Kids on the Block was a hit, Hanging Tough wasn't really hitting yet. It was still the right stuff. Please Don't Go Girl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Nick said that new single was going to be fire.
Give me the B-side.
You know what I'm saying?
Give me the B-side. Yeah.
Yep.
So he did a dance with it too, which I replicate in one of our Dodger posts from a few years back where we're all at the playoffs.
It basically became the original meme of our family was Nick's dance.
Yeah, and we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man.
We really do.
We've never let it go. This was 30 years ago.
The amount of joy that we've squeezed out of this moment in your life,
and
dude.
watching that clip.
I can't tell you how much we appreciate that.
So Nick won. Out of all the submissions, thousands of submissions around LA, Nick wins, right? He performs on the show, right?
Yeah,
which
live.
is shit. And then you won like a big, wasn't like a TV and stereo
like a big
system?
entertainment system.
Yeah.
Yes. For his family.
You guys had that for a long time.
Receiver,
it was nice.
5-disc CD player.
Yeah. Come on.
This is like at the beginning of CDs. A 5-disc CD player was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
we didn't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that'll be on the that'll be bonus material.
Yeah,
on the DVD
we can find that. Do you still have that
out.
video, dude?
I think my parents have it.
Yeah, it's on VHS somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm sure my dad has it. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to find that then and then hit them up.
All right, Nick.
Nick, we loved having you on, man. Supply chain manager, former youth preacher or youth pastor.
Yep.
Right.
All around good guy. Love you to death, man. Do you want to give people your social media, or do you have anything to plug or anything that they? Nothing.
No, just know that COVID's real, and when you see a firefighter, a nurse, an EVS worker, just thank them. It's been a long year.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everyone that we partner with. We're glad that we've kept our staff safe. Glad to see that others are safe. Especially texting you guys, make sure you were good. Carlos is good. So just appreciate you guys. Love you.
Love you too, man.
You can see how this guy made his way up from patient transporter to supply chain manager.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That winning attitude.
Follow your dreams.
That's right.
All right, Nick.
Thank you,
We'll
dude.
see you, man.
Love
Thanks.
you, buddy.
Love you.
All right.
Man.
All right.
Another good show in the books
show,
there.
Man.
You know what I'm saying, man? Danny, where can they find you, sir?
But before we do that, real quick, I just want to mention my buddy Benny Farias. He's a firefighter at Fire Station 41s. Cool guy, like him a lot.
41, Sunset Strip.
He has this apparel company, Roots. He just opened a shop. My wife and the boys, we went down there just to support. If you guys are in San Pedro or you're anywhere near San Pedro, go check him out. It's Roots Clothing. I'm wearing one of his hats right now. But yeah, they're not sponsoring the show or anything. He's just a good dude. He's trying to open a business. I support that. Go support him if you can. You can find me at DannyGonzo34 at Instagram or Twitter.
Follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor on Instagram and Twitter. Follow the show at PRC Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or PRC Podcast on TikTok.
TikTok.
Yes.
We're TikToking, baby.
Content like crazy, baby. Anywhere you can find it, you can find us. Contact the show. Contact PRCpod@gmail.com if you have questions or complaints, or if you want one of those hot Please Remain Calm T-shirts.
I'm gonna make some new ones. We're gonna get some new
packs.
designs too. Some new T-shirt designs coming up. So we got them in the works right now.
Right on. Thank you guys for listening.
All right, thanks. We'll see you.
Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
Let's take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against it and with a little bit of soul, no times.